Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 14th, 2025 New Bern Board of Aldermen meeting. Prayer tonight will be given by Alderman Royal.
Thank you, Mayor. The scriptures teach us that we should pray for those who are in leadership and in authority over us. So if you would you bow your heads in prayer with me? Father, we pray tonight in the name of Jesus that your will be done, that your name will be exalted, and that your glory will be seen. I thank you for this Board of Aldermen as we govern the city of New Bern, that you would give us wisdom, that you would give us understanding, and you would give us clarity of your will. I pray, Father God, that as we move forward, that we will have in heart the citizens of our city, and that whatever we do will be in favor of our citizens. I pray that each member of this board will have the wisdom and strength to know your will and to do it, and to be mindful that we are called to serve the people. I pause also to pray for our neighbors in Western North Carolina and for those who are suffering massive devastation in California. May they be comforted by your strength and by your love. Yes. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. If you're able to stand, please do so as we pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Alderman Creel.
Here.
Alderman Royal.
Here.
Alderman Astor.
Here.
Mayor Odham.
Here.
Alderman Kinsey.
Here.
Alderman Best.
Present.
Okay, Board, next up is to approve the agenda. Any changes that you'd like to make to that?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Next up is item number 4, request and petition of citizens. Madam Clerk. Thank you. First up is Seal Wasserman.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. For those of you who live in New Bern and have Optimum, you no longer have CBS and a few other channels. This company has a monopoly. Their service is ridiculous. There was no notification that the channels were going to be removed. I do not understand why Carolina Colors has Spectrum, but we don't have it in the western part of New Bern. If the company, if the Spectrum and Optimum were both in competition, we would have better service, better prices. I beg you, please consider allowing Spectrum, whatever the paperwork that has to go through with the FCC and everybody else, but please, I am sitting there, all of a sudden, I have no sound. I went for 1 month without TV, without cable TV, because I couldn't arrange my schedule to meet with their schedule, and it was after they had done an upgrade and knocked me out. I was told I was going to get a refund, $14 for no service for 1 month. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wasserman, just so you know, I believe, Mr. Attorney, if you can correct me, I believe it was about 15 years ago, the General Assembly took the franchise rights away from local government. We have no control whatsoever. If somebody wants to come and install like MetroNet did, we would work with them and they have the right to do so. But we don't have any, there's nothing we can do other than just asking more competition to come, which we've done.
Unfortunately, MetroNet does not provide cable service.
That's true.
So you have to go to some other entity. And that is a disservice to the people of New Bern. And if that means we need to go to the General Assembly, that's easily said and done. I know our representative and I know our senator. I will take it up with them also.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Spectrum in Carolina Colors?
There is another company in Carolina Colors. It's part of your HOA. I think it comes automatically. Yeah. Okay, next up is Helen Robinson.
Good evening, Aldermen, Alderwomen. First of all, I want to thank you guys for the time and energy that you spend in doing the business of our city. I know it's a lot of work. Thank you. I wanted to just speak briefly about, I call it the mess in Ward 6. It's been months now, and we haven't yet resolved the alderman race. And I just want to share my view that I think Dana is a nice guy, and he served the city faithfully, and I think it's time for some fresh leadership, and I hope we find a way forward soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is John Cho.
Mayor and Alderman, thank you very much for allowing me my 4 minutes of fame here. Briefly, I just want to ask and make a comment. I know that there is an opening for the residents for the MSD's advisory committee, and I would like to know what is the rubric that is currently being used, because I thought it was a rotating seat. So that way somebody else would be able to be part of the MSD advisory committee as one of the citizenry who actually pays into the MSD tax. So there is a methodology that is currently being used by the city as to who gets to be part of that advisory committee.
Ms. Clerk, I believe the only vacancy is the ex officio from the board vacancy. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, Mr. Cho, the only vacancy that's on the MSD Advisory Committee now would be someone from this board, on this Board of Aldermen to serve. That's the only vacancy that's open right now.
Okay. What is then the rubric for somebody new to come in to be part of it when there's a rotating seat?
Mr. Attorney?
Doesn't come to the board?
It does come before the board, and the ordinance or the resolution establishing that committee sets forth the different terms and their expirations. So,
yeah, maybe if the city clerk could email you a copy of that resolution that sets out all those dates and time frames would be helpful.
That'd be terrific. Thank you
Yes, sir.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the consent agenda. It's the pleasure of the board on items number 5 through 7.
Mayor, if there's no change to this, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call vote starting with Alderman Prill.
Alderman Prill,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Next up is number 8, presentation of annual comprehensive financial report and audit for fiscal year ending June 30, 2024. Ms. Ostrom.
Good evening, Board. The fiscal year 2024 audit has been completed and submitted as of November 15, 2024. As in the past, the Audit Committee, which includes members from the Finance Department, the City Manager, the Assistant City Manager, and 3 board members, which are Alderman Prill, Alderman Royal, and Mayor Odham, meet at the beginning, midway through, and at the conclusion of the audit with the audit staff. The purpose of the committee is to provide transparency and assure accountability and governance. The committee has met and reviewed the financial statements and discussed the audit outcomes with the auditor. In addition to what is in your packet tonight, I emailed a high-level overview of what will be covered as well. Financial statements are also available on the city's website. I would like to take a moment and thank the Aldermen for their participation in the FY24 Audit Committee, and a huge thanks to our finance staff which many are here tonight, for their hard work, long hours, and dedication, not only during the audit season, but also throughout the year. And now I present to you Mr. Alan Thompson with Thompson Price and Scott Adams and Company. Mr. Thompson will discuss the city's annual comprehensive report and the audit results for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024.
Thank you and good evening. You can flip, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
It'd be, if you go to page 1, that'd be awesome. You should have a smaller presentation, looks like this in front of you. Thank you, all the members who participated in the audit committee. We find that as an auditor very helpful to us. It gives us direct feedback on anything that the board is interested in terms of specifics. So it gives us a great idea and gives us feedback on what you may want us to look at over and above what our normal audit procedures might be. And the main thing you hire us as an independent audit firm to do is issue an opinion on the financial statements as a whole. We issue an unmodified report, which is a quote-unquote good report, best report, highest report we can issue. On page 1, under significant audit findings, qualitative aspects of accounting practice, in each of those 3 paragraphs, there's a key phrase or a set of words: appropriate accounting policies, accounting estimates, and financial statement disclosures. We were fine with all 3 of those. And then on page 2, there were no difficulties encountered in performing the audit. There were no uncorrected misstatements. There were no disagreements with management. Management did provide us with a representation letter dated November 15th, and we're unaware that management consulted the outside accountants, auditors, etc. Under the 2 comments there, bullet points, we believe that continuing efforts need to be made to ensure revenues are collected for projects with negative fund balances. Otherwise, transfers need to be budgeted and recorded to clear them up. And then management needs to review the use of contra expense accounts and how to properly account for asset additions and operating fund projects. Additionally, the effort should be made to gain a better understanding of what entries are required for GASB's 8796, and that's the leases and the subscription-based software standards there. And then if you'd be kind enough to flip over to page 4. On page 4 here, just one more page, I think. So we're not saying these are all the key numbers in the audit report, but these are definitely some of the key numbers in the audit report. And what we attempt to do is put this first column with 2024 year-end numbers and then the 4 prior year audit numbers there to give you some context and not just a number in space. So is the general fund balance of $36 million, is that number going up compared to prior year numbers? And if you go back to 2020, you can see that number at $21,681,000. And obviously the current year number there is $36,052,000. Unavailable fund balance, $11.5 million, restricted and assigned at $14.7. The general fund expenditures at $42,891,000. And then the fund balance available as a percentage at 57.22%. And then the unassigned fund balance there at $20,105,829. The city does have a policy that restricts 25% of fund balance. If you were to look in your audit report, you'd see on page 63 that number, I think, is a little over 11 million, which is different than this number because that's a city restriction, a board restriction, if you will. And the unassigned fund balance is a percentage at 46.88%. The unassigned fund balance is a percentage, again, is 46.82%. And then the revenues over and under expenses before transfers, it's a negative $5.7 million in the general fund. The electric fund was a positive $405,000. The water fund there positive $1,651,000, and the sewer fund is a positive $926,000. Without reading all the fixed assets number there, you can see them for the electric, the water, and the sewer funds there. The total fixed assets, accumulated depreciation in cash. And what you're looking for in each of those is not that the, quote, net position is increasing as much as you're looking for a positive cash flow in each of those, because you have, in all likelihood, no intention of ever selling any of the assets of the underlying fund there. So what you want is positive cash flow in each of those funds. And I'll say positive operational cash flow because your cash flow could go down because you made a significant capital expenditure, but you could still have positive operational cash flow. Then you see the cash in the general fund there at $28.9 million. If you would go back to 2020, you can see that's $10.7 million. And then the electric fund at $10.8 million. Water fund there at $15.8. The sewer fund at $7,058,000, and then the FEMA there at $1,256,000. Other governmentals at $5,956,000, and then the fund balance and net positions there at $36 million in the general fund again, and the electric at $50.7, water at $50.2, the sewer fund at $68.5 million. The FEMA is a negative $832,000, and then the fund balance other governmentals is $6,149,000. You can see your property tax rates there next. On the next line, you can see where the current year had a dip because of revaluation. Your collection percentage at 99.44% is excellent. And then the property valuations and levy amounts there in the next two lines. And then your debt there both for governmental activities and for business type activities. If you'd be kind enough to flip over to page 5. I won't read every single line of that, but you can see the breakdown of your general fund revenues there with a total of $40,476,000. If you were to go back to 2020, that same number is $30,629,000, and the expenditures for the current year are $46,193,000, and the expenditures in 2020 were $33.4 million. So both are trending up significantly. And on page 6. You see your total fund balance, restricted and assigned and committed ARPA funds there in the bar chart. And then on the bottom, you see your analysis of fund balance available compared with your group weighted average. You can see in the first 3 years you were below, and then the last couple of years you're above that group weighted average number. And then on page 7, you can see your analysis of unassigned fund balance as a percentage. We put a green dotted line there to show the exclusive of FEMA Hurricane Florence fund balance. And then on the bottom, you see your revenues over and under expenses before transfers and contribution for each of the 4 funds, the general, the electric, the water, and the sewer funds. On page 8, you see at the top there 2 pie charts for cash balances and fund balances, and with the respective numbers right underneath that. And you can see cash balances at $62.7 million and total fund balances there at $205.6 million. The bottom chart there shows where y'all were tracking right along with the group weighted average until the revaluation, and then the drop showed you coming down significantly. And then on page 9, you see the cities along with the group weighted average and the statewide average there for property tax collection percentages. 99% obviously is a very good percentage. On the bottom of that chart, you can see where your ad valorem taxes, why we talk about it so much, because it's such a large percentage of the overall general fund revenue at 47.84%. The sales tax, which is in the intergovernmental revenue, there is another large percentage of the total revenue. And then on page 10, you see a breakdown of the expenditures by percentage, with public safety being the largest there, slightly over 50%, 50.6%. Then public works being the next, general government following up on that. And then finally on the last page, there's a couple, they call them FPICs, which is Financial Performance Indicators of Concern that the LGC, if you've been on the board long enough, you may have remembered the old unit letters the LGC used to send out. This replaces that, quote, unit letter. And the first one is the electric fund. They're basically looking for unrestricted cash to be greater percentage. You can read that, what they're asking for, I think. Ms. Kim's already prepared the response on that. And then on the bottom, there was a prior period adjustment. The city uses Debt Book, which is one of the most popular or most well-used groups to calculate the SPITA amount, subscription-based information technology assets. And based on the timing of that, there was a calculation error in that. It didn't change money. It was a calculation error on, if you're familiar with actuarial, it's almost an actuarial type calculation. And so that's what that prior period adjustment was about. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have of me, not just now or any time. And I think several of you may be familiar with my colleague Hunter, and you're always welcome to call him as well. We appreciate all of you who participate in the audit committee. We think it's helpful. The feedback, interaction that we're getting, hopefully that's helping you as well.
Board have questions? Okay.
Thank you very much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Next up is item number 9, conduct a public hearing and consider adopting an ordinance to annex portions of Tax Parcel IDs 8222-18001 and 8222-136. Mr. Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor, Alderman. We received a request from Tanya Dillahunt to annex the properties in question. The total properties consist of about 1.246 acres. The property is located at 760 and 784 Highway 55 West. If the annexation is approved, the property will be in Ward 5. After conducting a public hearing, the board is asked to consider this request.
Does the board have questions before we open a public hearing? Okay, at this time, we will open a public hearing on item number 9. If anybody would like to speak for or against or just have questions or comments, please come forward to the microphone at this time.
Mayor, make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is now closed. What is the pleasure of the board on item number 9?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt an ordinance to annex portions of Tax Parcels ID 8-222-18001 and 8-222-136.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mayor, just one question.
Sure.
I guess directed to the city attorney. Typically, when we receive a request to annex property, we're dealing with the whole lot size. These two properties, we're only being asked to annex a portion of the lots. It just seems a little bit out of the ordinary, but my question is, does that present any potential problems in the future in any way by only annexing portions of a piece of property?
It doesn't, as long as it's in common ownership, and this is. It's a good question. It is unusual. But if you recall, oftentimes zoning lines will split parcels, just like annexations can as well. Not typical, but it's done.
Okay. That's all, Mayor.
Okay. If there are no further questions, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Royal.
Alderman Royal?
Yes.
Alderman Astor?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
Yes.
Alderman Creel?
Yes.
Mayor Odham?
Yes, motion carries. Next is item number 10, conduct a public hearing and consider adopting an ordinance to rezone Tax Parcel ID 8222204. Mr. Goff.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen.
Evening.
The item on the agenda tonight is the rezoning known as U.S. Invest. That case number is REZ 2976-2024. The applicant is U.S. Invest, and the owners are Terra Firma Land Company, both represented by Kenneth Wenrick. The location is just north of West Pleasant Hill Drive, and it's identified by that parcel number on the screen. Its current zoning is A5 or Agriculture 5, and its proposed rezoning is to Residential 6. It's approximately 8.25 acres in size. This vicinity map shows its location again just north of West Pleasant Hill Drive. You may remember last year there was a parcel adjacent to this that came with the same request. That is the larger parcel off to the right. This sign was posted on January 3rd to satisfy the statutory requirement for a posting notice, as well as letters being mailed out. And the vicinity map shows all those within that blue highlighted area who were mailed notice of this rezoning. A summary of the Agriculture 5 zoning district, it focuses on agriculture and forestry related uses. It can also accommodate residential uses and limited uses that support those industries. And the Residential 6 zoning district summary, it's a medium density residential type district. Minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet. It also accommodates single family uses as well as multifamily uses, very limited commercial uses or non-residential. The use comparison chart shows various uses that are permitted either by right or by special use. Generally speaking, on our table of permitted uses, there are more, but if there's nothing located next to that use, it's not permitted at all in that zoning district. Some examples allowed in both is single-family residential. A difference would be in the R6, multifamily is allowed, in the A5 it is not. The existing zoning map shows the light green as Agriculture 5, so this parcel is adjacent to several lots zoned A5, and to the right you'll see the R6 zoning district, so it is also adjacent to that zoning district. To the south you'll see a manila-colored zoning district that is a low-density residential R20. And the future land use category for this property has been identified as developed in the comprehensive plan. And this identifies this property as being primed for development and expansion. It does talk about residential densities ranging up to 5 dwelling units per acre and higher densities up to 12 with multifamily uses. And this is also within the NC 43 focus area, and that was identified in the 2010 land use plan as well as the 2022 update. And this identified that this area would have been one of the places that is slow to grow and is also primed for growth. An aerial imagery of this property shows that it is currently forested and undeveloped, as is the adjacent property to the right. And this is, again, another photo of the sign, but it does show the existing conditions of vegetation and woods. For consideration, the Planning and Zoning Board held its meeting on November 14th and voted unanimously to approve this rezoning. And this recommendation was based on it being consistent with the city's land use plan and its update. Another consideration for this property is that it is adjacent to both A5 as well as our 6 zone properties. And I'd be happy to take any questions from the board.
Does the board have questions?
Yes, I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Gold, I got several contacts from citizens that live within that 100-foot area, and a lot of them had concerns. So can you go back to what is some of the uses for this if it becomes a residential?
Sure.
Now, I have no problem with the property owner wanting to rezone their property and potentially whatever their plans may be for development. But I do have a problem if it will be allowable for, and I have nothing against trailer parks, okay? But trailer parks within that particular zoning area. Now, I do know there's some over on 43, but with this particular piece of property, can a mobile home park come on that property?
I do know that individual mobile homes, like if a single property owner purchased it, they could place a mobile home on there. I believe in the R6 zoning district, a manufactured home park would be permitted by special use. So both multifamily and a manufactured home park, if proposed, would go before the Board of Adjustment.
Okay. That's the only, like I said again, I don't have a problem with an individual wanting to rezone their property and moving forward may want to develop their land, but I have a reservation about another trailer park coming within that area.
Yes, sir.
So, and that's the only question that I had for you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question. You mentioned adjacent property. Are both those properties owned by U.S. Invest?
I don't believe currently it is both in ownership of the same property owner, no.
But another owner came for rezoning last year?
Correct.
For the adjacent property?
That is
and you
correct.
said this is on the right or the left?
The one from last year is to the right, and this one does abut it. So if you're looking off to the right, that awkward-shaped long lot was the one from last year, and the one in the red is the one that we're doing today.
And the rezoning last year was for R6?
Correct. Same situation, A5 to R6.
Thank you.
Another question. I'm assuming that the ingress and egress would be over on the 43 side, or has that been discussed yet, or?
So for this property, it does abut a road. I do believe it is a dirt road. So likely improvements will be required for any sort of significant use. It would be a different story for the adjacent property if it still remains under a different ownership, if there's a different plan with that. But this one is just north of that road, West Pleasant Hill Drive.
Mm-hmm.
So they would likely take access from there, both ingress and egress.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing on item number 10. And again, this is the rezoning of Tax Parcel ID 8222204. If anybody would like to come forward to speak, please do so at this time.
Mayor, make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is now closed. What is the pleasure of the board on item number 10?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to consider adopting an ordinance to rezone tax parcel ID 8-222-204.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Astor.
Alderman Astor?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
No.
Alderman Creel?
Yes.
Alderman Royal?
Yes.
Mayor Odham?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 11, consider adopting a resolution approving an amended and restated transfer and reversion agreement with Habitat for Humanity of Craven County. Mr. Hughes.
Mayor, in 2019, the city conveyed 10 parcels to Habitat for Humanity for the purpose of developing those parcels into low to moderate income housing within a 24-month period. Of those 10 parcels, 7 have been developed. However, one was undevelopable because it was in a special flood zone. That parcel has been returned to the city. Habitat is seeking an amended agreement to allow it 5 years to develop the final 2 parcels. And tonight we do have Tracy Lilly here from Habitat for Humanity who can answer any questions you may have on that.
Does the board have questions?
Mayor, one question that I had, and it's really a question, I guess, to any representatives of Habitat that are here this evening. The request is to extend the agreement for a period of 5 years. I'm just curious as to whether the additional 2 lots will be developed sooner during that time frame as opposed to later, or does Habitat not have any definitive plans in place as of today with regards to these remaining 2 homes.
Thank you very much. I'm Tracy Levy, the ED. We do have plans to develop. The thing is that we have 2 homes that are built now that are almost ready for their habitat homeowner. Then the next 2 properties on Hartford, we have plans to build a 4-bedroom at 2022 will be the next build, and that will happen as soon as this is passed. And then we are going down to Havelock. We have some property in Havelock because we represent the entire county. We're going to build in Havelock, then we're coming back to the New Bern area. So we want to give ourselves just a little bit of time to be able to go through the 4 or 5 houses and then come on back. And that's why we extended it to the 5 years. Yes, we plan on having that done before then.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you. What's the pleasure of the board on item number 11?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution approving an amended and restated transfer and reversion agreement with Habitat for Humanity of Craven County.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Kinsey.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Creel,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Mayor Odom.
Yes, motion carries. Next up is item number 12. Consider adopting a resolution to sell 513 First Avenue. Mr. Hughes.
We received an initial bid of $2,700 for the purchase of the property in question. That bid was advertised, and an upset bid in the amount of $2,885 was received from BCJ Development LLC. The property is a vacant .074-acre residential parcel with a tax value of $5,400. It was acquired jointly by the city and county in April of 2013 through tax foreclosure. If the property is sold for the final bid, the city will receive $1,710.12, and the county will receive $1,174.88. Does
the board have questions?
If no further discussion, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution to sell 513 First Avenue.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Best.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Creel,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Mayor Odom.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 13, consider adopting an ordinance for the demolition of 618 Crawford Street. Mr. Ezel.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the board. Before we present this ordinance, I want to inform you that during the preparation of this ordinance, the owners of this property have been in contact with us and are working towards a plan to actually rebuild the home that we're going to be presenting to you. This presentation is more of our accountability piece, not saying that they will not rebuild. I have every bit of faith in them that they will do it, but on the off chance that something goes awry, having that accountability piece from us still in place is going to be the way that our ordinances were intended to work. Without further ado, staff is seeking an ordinance to demolish the dwelling located at 618 Crawford Street. Staff has sent the owner of record the initial minimal housing letter in July of 2022 stating that the dwelling unit located at 618 Crawford Street has deficiencies violating the city's minimum housing ordinance. Staff has attempted to contact the owners via the United States Postal Service. Certified and non-certified letters were delivered with limited response to the owners. We also took the next step in one of the rules of posting these notices on the property and posting these notices in the paper. Staff filed a complaint and notice of hearing in June of 2024. One of the defendants responded in September of 2024 for the hearing. In September of the same year, the order of the building inspector was issued and served to the owners to bring the dwelling back into compliance with the minimum housing standards established by the ordinance. That order expired in November of 2024. To date, the dwelling still remains non-compliant. But as I said when I started, they have started the process of submitting all the paperwork to establish the permits to attempt to bring this back into compliance. The demolition estimate from Public Works for this property is going to be $6,500. This estimate does not include asbestos testing and abatement if necessary, and utility determinations have not been completed at this time. Staff plans to utilize the Community Development Block Grant funds for the demolition of this project. The complete list and chronological order of events is related to this property is attached to the presentation to include pictures. At this time, I will take any questions.
We'll have questions.
Are they going to, you said they're going to rebuild this house, or are they going to tear it down and build a new one?
They're going to rebuild. I went through the house, the owners went through the house. The majority of the damage for the house was in the front. If you split the house in quarters, the front quarter of the house. Minor damage to substantial damage throughout the house, but it can be rebuilt the way it's
Well, good.
Any other questions? So you're looking for us to still adopt the ordinance so you have that in case they do not move forward with?
Yes, as I expressed to the owners during the hearing, the process is not meant to tear down houses, but yet to encourage bringing those houses back into compliance. But we need to have an accountability piece on the off chance that something goes awry and that house is not brought back into compliance within the timeline of what they're going to do if they get the permits issued to them.
How long are you giving them?
Once we issue a building permit, the permit is valid for a year, barring that you start work within the first 6 months. Once you start work within the first 6 months, that permit stays active for a year, barring that the person doing the work can show some type of progress. So technically, you could have a permit go on for years.
So I think my question was, how long are you going to give them before they get their permit?
Oh, they have submitted the applications. We're in the process of reviewing it. I plan on having a permit issued by the end of the week.
Well, wonderful. I think that's a good move.
Okay. It's a pleasure of the board on item number 13.
Make a motion we adopt an ordinance for the demolition of 618 Crawford Street.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Prill.
Alderman Prill,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Patrick. Next up is item number 14, consider adopting an ordinance to amend the schedule of fees and charges. Ms. Ostrom.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
Jessica, you I want to stick around for a few minutes because I got a question I'm sorry.
Ms. Ostrom.
As part of the budget process, the board adopted an amended schedule of fees and charges effective July 1st, 2024. This amendment proposed to restore parks and fitness recreation. This amendment here proposes to restore parks and fitness recreation fees and add membership fees for the Stanley White Rec Center. The original schedule presented in the board packet for today's meeting has been amended, and a corrected schedule has been provided to you. If you go to the red line version on page 3 of the red line version, the Aquatic Center season pass is $60 per resident and $120 non-resident. Top of page 4, the tree purchase program is $150 to $250 depending on the species, and the brick pavers for $75. Those 3 were previously omitted and now restored. If you go about midway down the page, on page 4, you'll see the Stanley White Recreation Center membership fees. And for youth, ages 13 through 17, charges for residents of $15 per month, or for $15 monthly membership and $150 for an annual membership. Non-residents is $30 for a monthly and $300 for an annual membership. For the adults ages 18 through 61, we have $20 for a monthly and $200 for an annual for residents. and non-residents is $40 a month or $400 for an annual. Senior citizens age 62 and older, $15 a month or $150 for an annual membership for residents, and then $30 monthly or $300 for an annual $30 for monthly membership, $300 for an annual membership for non-residents. The day fitness pass for ages 13 and older is $5 per day for residents or $10 per day for non-residents. The schedule of fees of charges will be effective January 15th, 2025. The Parks and Rec Director, Ms. Carrie Warren, is here and will discuss further and answer any questions you have.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. So the fees that we're proposing, they're going to be in addition to what we currently have been offering. The new recreation center will have extended operating hours from what we currently have seen at West New Bern and what the previous Stanley White Recreation Center offered. So we're going to be looking at offering around, it's going to be 80 hours a week of operating time. And the hours of operation are going to be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then Sunday we will be closed. We will continue to implement our red card, which is something that we've been doing for about 6 or 7 years, where anybody that enters a recreation center has to have a card to scan. This is at no charge, and they register. There's an application process with that. If they lose their card, there is a fee to replace it. But they do have to scan that every time that they come into recreation center. And that would be able for them to participate in activities we'll be offering that are free of charge. So open use programs such as basketball, volleyball, pickleball, using the walking track at designated times throughout the week. Additional recreation programs we'll be offering, they will have fees associated with them, just like we have done previously for camps, cooking classes, art classes, the different variety of programs that we offer. And then the fees that Ms. Ostrom discussed are what we're proposing for the fitness center, which is a large newer amenity for the recreation center. So the fitness membership will include use of the cardio equipment, use of the weight equipment, use of the walking track, and participation in fitness classes, and this will be during all operating hours. So anytime the facility's open, they would be able to access those amenities. And then there will be additional fitness classes that other users can use at a fee. So we're proposing that it either be $5 a day for residents if they want to do a day pass to come to the fitness center for just one day or to a class, and then $8 for non-residents, which we probably did double that at 10. Sorry. So the actual fee is going to be in addition to what we have currently been offering at the center. So any questions that y'all may have about it specifically?
I just want to be real clear on that last statement you made. So we're only charging fees for new amenities. So the things that people could go in and use the facility for before, they'll still be able to do it now for free.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, but they'll have to get their rec card,
Sure.
which is no cost.
Mayor, I also want to add that the city has been in the process of applying for partnerships with, there are several entities that work with insurance, such as Active and Fit, Silver and Fit, Silver Sneakers, Renew Active, Fit On, and Prime. And those programs are with your insurance carrier and Medicare, and they are basically programs that encourage those members to get active and participate in fitness centers to improve their health. And so it's more of a reimbursement type thing. And so we have been applying for that, so that's a nice benefit if you have that with your insurance. We're also in the process of looking at a scholarship program and looking for some funding from CDBG for those that do not qualify, so they would have a no-cost membership to the fitness center portion of this if they were interested. Also, just like previously, there have been programs that have been offered at Stanley White for health and wellness that were at low cost, and so those programs would also be designed for those participants to be able to use the weight equipment and cardio equipment as well. It would just be for certain durations of however Parks and Recreation staff set those programs up.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes, would you, Ms. Warren, repeat the fitness center membership is inclusive of what again?
It includes all cardio equipment, weight equipment, use of the walking track, and then participation in fitness classes. And that would be at any time that the facility's open.
Because that was the only question that I had from residents, was what the fitness center would include.
Yeah, and we have, it's commercial grade fitness equipment with treadmills, recumbent bikes, stair stepper. Then we have full body weight machines like you would see at your Planet Fitness and places like that.
Thank you.
Ms. Warren, while you're there, do you want to go ahead and share the open house and grand opening information?
Yeah, sure. We've currently sent out some invitations. It's on social media, but we will have the ribbon cutting ceremony and grand opening for the Stanley A. White Recreation Center on Friday, January 24th at 10 a.m. And we'd love to see everybody out to join us and participate and see the new facility. We'll also be doing open houses beginning this Friday on the 17th. They'll start at 1 o'clock and go to 7. We'll have them again on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2, I believe. And then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of the next week, which would be the 20th, 21st, and 22nd, they'll be 1 to 7 p.m. So we'll have opportunities for citizens to come in and just take a casual walk through. Staff will be there to answer questions and things like that.
Okay.
Carrie, one quick question. The walking track, is it strictly a walking track or is it a walking, jogging track?
It's more of a walking track per se. I wouldn't encourage people to be up there running, and our rules are probably going to deny that type of activity take place, especially with it being elevated. It does have fencing, but it's still an open track. So.
Okay, I was just curious.
You want to go running?
Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to amend the schedule of fees and charges for item number 14.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Royal.
Alderman Royal?
Yes.
Alderman Astor?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
Yes.
Alderman Creel?
Yes.
Mayor Odham?
Yes, motion carries. Next up is item number 15, consider adopting an ordinance to amend the Broad Street Pier Project Fund. Ms. Ostrom.
The Broad Street Pier Project Fund was established on April 9, 2024 with initial funding of $120,000 from the ARP-enabled funds. It was anticipated additional funds would be received from outside sources. A contribution of $115,000 has since been received from the North Carolina Wildlife Habitation Foundation. This amendment acknowledges those funds.
Does the board have questions?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the ordinance to amend the Broad Street Pier Project funds.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Astor.
Alderman Astor?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
Yes.
Alderman Creel?
Yes.
Alderman Royal?
Yes.
Mayor Odham?
Yes, motion carries.
And we have some more money that's going to be coming for that project.
Great.
All right. Item number 16, consider adopting a budget ordinance amendment for FY 2025. Ms. Ostrom.
This budget amendment appropriates fund balance from various enterprise funds to reestablish encumbrances for additional outstanding purchase orders. The appropriations are $205,327 from the water fund, $27,690 from the electric fund, a reduction of $64,896 for the sewer fund, which was for a vehicle that was miscoded. It should have been to water fund.
Does the board have questions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the budget ordinance amendment for fiscal year 2025.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Kinsey.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Creel,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Next up is appointments, and it looks like we still have the board appointment for the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Alderman Royal, you have a vacancy for the Board of Adjustments. Do you have anyone for that?
No, sir, not yet.
Okay, and you also Alderman Royal, when she resigned from the MSD Advisory Committee, that opened up a vacancy for us to fill. It has to be somebody from this governing body. Alderman Astor, you mentioned one time that you might be interested in serving, or you still have that desire?
The MSD?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be glad to.
Can I get a motion to appoint Alderman Astor as the ex officio for this board for the MSD? Have a motion by Alderman Kinsey.
Second.
Second by Alderman Royal. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Alderman Astor. Any other appointments?
No, but Mayor, may I mention, when you talked about the MSD and Mr. Cho's question, Ms. Carol Stubbs had resigned, so that position has been filled.
I believe we filled that with Mike Bass from MJ's. Yeah, so that one was filled. She vacated it, resigned, and then the clerk went back and pulled the applications for that particular category, which I think was the restaurant category, and then the board appointed him. It's been maybe a month or two ago.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, next up is attorney's report.
Nothing to report tonight, Mayor.
City manager's report.
A few updates. I want to remind everyone that we are having a ribbon cutting ceremony for Jack's Island at Lawson Creek Park this Friday at 10 a.m. We were fortunate enough to receive some FEMA funding to do some renovations out there, and so we have built a new shelter. We have extended the marsh walk. It is now a quarter-mile marsh walk, and so we want to show that off. We also have a walkway that goes around Jack's Island, so that is going to start at 10 a.m. We invite the public to come out and check those facilities out. Also, in December, we talked a little bit about the referendum coming up, and we'd like to request that we are able to reconvene for a work session on February 11th, which is the first meeting in February at 4 p.m. to discuss the proposed projects and pricing.
So is February 11th good for everyone for that meeting?
I think so.
We have a regular meeting at 6 o'clock that night, so. If that is amenable to the board, we would need a motion to call for a special work session on February 11th, 4 p.m. at City Hall.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, a second from Alderman Astor and a second from Kinsey. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
And the final thing I have is I've been having discussions with Susan Williams with the Board of Elections, and so 9 months away from the next municipal election. The candidate filing period is July 7th at 8 a.m. through July 18th at noon. The election day is October 7th. The runoff election day is scheduled for November 4th. Historically, that filing fee for the mayor has been $20, and for the alderman it's been $10. So we need to hear tonight your preference on early voting. You've basically got two options. You have early voting, which would be September 18th through October 4th, or you opt out. The early voting hours would be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays, and then 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturdays. So if you'd like to keep the filing fee the same, we'd just like to hear that. And if you have an option or a preference on the early voting, let us know. We will reach out to the Board of Elections. They will update their agreement with us. We'll bring it back at a future meeting for the board to review and adopt.
I'm assuming there's going to be a considerable difference in the cost.
So the estimate that they gave us about a year, in April, was about $95,000 for the election. Now, every day that you do an early voting is basically $1,500 to cover the cost of the staff. But the ballpark they gave us for the election and the runoff was about $94,000. What the actual amount will be, well, they'll bill us once we get to that portion.
So just so I'm clear, the early voting, there's two options. You have it, and it's September 18th through October 4th, or you don't have it.
That's correct. So when I had an initial conversation with the Board of Elections, they said you could do it earlier. And so she actually sent me another email right before this meeting and informed me that she'd reached out to the state, and you cannot shorten that time period. It has to be.
Does our charter talk about, it just talks about the date, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you need direction from the board tonight?
Yes, sir, and then we'll come back to you after we speak with the Board of Elections.
Does the board have questions or comments?
Mr. Hughes, why are you asking for us to make a change here?
Well, the Board of Elections reached out and asked about the early voting portion. And so we need that information from you. And so as we were talking, we also wanted to make sure that you were fine with the filing fee. So it's just to formalize update the contract that we currently have with them.
Okay, is one of the reasons is because it's going to cost more? It's going to cost, not the filing fee, but the election itself will cost more because of, okay.
No.
All right. Okay.
But the reason they're asking us is because I believe we're the only one now.
We're the only election.
Where in the past there were other cities and municipalities, so it's just us that we're having to bear the full brunt.
It's just us, that's correct.
And the $95,000 estimate included early voting or did not include early voting?
That included the entire election.
Okay, so if there's 2 weeks of early voting, the cost could be lower. That's what the board needs to be considering, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I'll just speak for myself. I'm not prepared to make that decision tonight. I'll be happy to come back with some feedback at the next board meeting, but I think we need to talk to our constituents. I mean, 2 weeks for early voting for the city to be the only thing on the ballot is a lot. It's one thing if there's other elections going on, but with it just being us, I think we need to have some conversation with the constituents about that. Or have comments or questions?
Yeah, I would like to get more information on that.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
Motion to table it?
Yes, so let's get a motion to table that to the next board meeting, if we could.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Alderman Royal, a second by Alderman Kinsey to table this decision to the next board meeting. Any further discussion? All those
Yes.
yes, ma'am.
Yes. So since we're tabling this for the next meeting, Mr. Hughes, would you be able to have a dollar amount of how much this election would cost us?
I'll get her to give an updated estimate.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor of tabling say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Anything else, Mr. Hughes?
No, sir.
Okay. Next up is new business. Alderman Prill.
Mayor, just one item. I don't know if the board members recall, there used to be a historic marker down on East Front Street across from the Schreider's property. It was, correct me if I'm wrong, Battle of New Bern marker.
That's right.
That marker got pretty beat up as a result of Hurricane Florence. The Public Works Department was able to take the actual metal plaque and restore it. The base of that was pretty much destroyed by the storm. The Public Works Department is prepared to move forward to build a new base and to reinstall the marker in a slightly different location than it was previously. I would like to get the board's approval, if you are inclined, to use $5,000 of ARP money that is remaining for Ward 1 towards the cost of building a new brick, I think it's going to be a brick base.
Brick and concrete.
Brick and concrete, so that this marker can be reinstalled in a new location.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's all, Mayor.
Okay. Alderman Royal.
I would like to take the opportunity to wish everyone a very, very happy and successful New Year. And certainly I'm disappointed that we didn't get any snow, but hopefully it's still winter and we will get some. But Happy New Year to all of our residents, equally so. I pray that God would bless you immensely this year, 2025. Thank you, and that'll be all, Mayor.
Okay. Alderman Astor.
Yes, Mayor. I think it's really past time that we appoint someone for this Ward 6 seat. And tonight, I would like to make a recommendation of a gentleman that has served 8 years on this Board of Aldermen as a Ward 6 Alderman. He also served 9 years as the City of New Bern's mayor. That put him having 17 years of City of New Bern budgets that he has worked with, which is certainly getting that time of the year would certainly be helpful for this board to have someone with budget experience. He also served on the Friends of the Firemen's Museum Board, and he also served on the Housing Authority. With that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Dana Outlaw for Ward 6 Alderman.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Best.
Alderman Best.
No.
Alderman Creel.
No.
Alderman Royal.
No.
Alderman Astor.
Yeah.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion fails. Anything else, Alderman Astor?
Yeah, I was just looking at the agenda for the planning and zoning meeting that was held January the 9th. Tell me, Mr. City Manager, what is a parking work group through the planning and zoning board?
I'm not aware of a work group.
I believe it's something that the Planning and Zoning Board has.
Are you on that board?
No, but my understanding is that they wanted to look at any potential parking issues that might exist within the city. So they just established a little work group amongst themselves to kind of take a look at parking in general. I'm not aware that there's any particular location that they're looking at. It's more just looking at the issue of parking and whether or not there's anything that needs to be addressed.
Does that fall under the authority of planning and zoning?
Well, they're free to study any zoning issue they like. I always recommend to the P&Z board that they get some direction from this board, because if this board's not motivated to address any issues, then it becomes a waste of time. But they absolutely have the authority to study whatever they would like that has to do with zoning issues in the city. And if they have officially formed a group, then it's a public body that requires a published schedule of meetings and minutes, et cetera. And I don't know in this case if this is just a kind of an ad hoc get-together or if this is an officially constituted group. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I guess my question would be, we're going through a complete rewrite of our land use ordinance. Is this part of that process, or is this something separate? Because if it's not part of that process, I don't know why they would be picking a topic to talk about if we're doing a whole rewrite. So, but anyway, anything else, sir?
No, thank you.
Okay, Alderman Kinsey.
Not tonight, sir.
Alderman Best.
Yes. To my knowledge, or has it been changed? I thought we have an upcoming meeting in February at Craven Community College for the Ward 6 vacancy. Is that still?
I haven't called for that meeting. I had the clerk poll the board to see which dates would be available, but it hasn't been called for yet.
Okay. So that's not on our calendar. It's on our calendar. That's why.
As a tentative hold.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to mention that.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, I would like to make a motion to appoint Darlene Brown for the Ward 6 vacancy.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Let's have a roll call, starting with Alderman Prill.
Alderman Prill,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor,
No.
Alderman Kinsey,
No.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
No. Motion fails 3-3. Anything else?
Yes. You know, we sit here and we have members of the board appoint whom they want, and we have other members of the board appoint whom they want. And, you know, the comments are being said that, you know, we need somebody with experience. Haven't we as a board for the past 2 years, this is our third year together as a board, haven't we approved budgets, and weren't we capable of making decisions and approving budgets? So, you know, that statement being made, it makes it look like and sound like that we as a board, some members of this board or we as a board are not capable of serving our citizens. So, you know, that's a statement that I wish that somehow, you know, could be redirected in another fashion. And another thing I would like to bring forth, Mayor, under new business is, Mr. Hughes, I know time is spinning by fast, and I know that we're now talking about changing things on our upcoming election. When will we get together I know we back in November, we discussed the bond referendum. So when have you and Finance Director or anybody got together with some dates of when we're going to come back to discuss that?
Yes, ma'am. We just talked about it a few minutes ago. The work session will be on February 11th at 4 p.m. That's where we'll come back with prices for the proposed projects, and that's when this board will determine which projects you're interested in funding, and then when it will actually start the official process that we need to go through to make sure that this is on the ballot in October.
Okay. So now when do you have, the reason why I asked that question again was because when do you have to report to the Board of Elections in order for this information to be put on the ballot? I know there's a time period for that.
Do you remember that process?
To my knowledge, if I'm not mistaken, it's July 1.
It could be. I know it was 90-plus days, okay. so we've got plenty of time for that.
Okay. That's what and another thing is because I know we're going to have some public engagements, okay, public hearings, of course, and public engagement, because I think this is something that a lot of our citizens are not really familiar with, and it's not something that we do a lot as a city. So I think our citizens needs to be well informed to know what's going to be on that ballot and what they're going to be voting for, because it's going to be cost effective for them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And as you remember, when we had our consultants come, they went through the approval process, and there's considerable robust public comment during those things, and so we have to make appropriate notes for our citizens to be fully aware.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. The only thing I had is there were some projects in the Ward 6 ARPA funding. I was still the alderman. Alderman Brinson had been elected. We worked together to come to a consensus on some projects. Some of those projects haven't been completed. Some of them have been deferred. So speaking with the city manager this week, there's a need, if you all recall, the BP station that got flooded during Hurricane Florence, that was used for storage for mainly Christmas decorations. Parks and Recreation is in need of a storage building for Christmas decor, and also to replace some decorations that are kind of outdated and damaged. So I would like to bring forward the proposal of $100,000 from the Ward 6 ARPA fund for, I think you said Parks and Recreation storage would cover that.
That's correct.
Any questions on that?
This would be to build a structure for storage.
Yeah, Foster can.
We have a location that would accommodate that.
Yes, sir. It would be located on Cypress Street, behind where the Cedar Grove Cemetery would be located, near our community garden. We already have a lay-down area for that. The size of the building would be approximately 40 by 50, and it would accommodate all of the city's decorations that would be stored in there.
Okay.
Could I get a motion to approve that?
Second.
I need a motion.
I make a motion that $100,000.
Foster, I think, Foster, you said 100,000. Is that 100,000?
That's correct.
That $100,000 of Ward 6 ARP funds be used to construct a building for, is it going to be for Public Works or Parks?
It will be Parks and Recreation.
For Parks and Recreation to store Christmas decorations and other items.
That's your motion?
That's it.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, further questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. I was just going to say thank you to staff and everyone that attended the New Year's Eve event. Based off of the data, it looks like it was probably over 8,000 people that attended that night. Miraculously, there were no parking issues. Everybody found somewhere to park, and it was a very eventful evening, and people seemed to enjoy it. So thanks, staff, for their help with that. And next is a closed session. Do we need one?
Yes, sir. Briefly, to discuss the potential acquisition of real property pursuant to 143-318-11A5.
Can I get a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Have a motion by Alderman Royal, second by Alderman Kinsey. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're in closed session.
Motion to adjourn.
Anybody out there? Okay, board didn't take any action. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned.